Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay
This
Moore.
is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Marotta.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
This is Kevin McNamara, and you're watching The Break It Down Show.
And now, The Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Yeah, man, this is cool. We're back here in your backyard garden. It's so fancy with your lemon tree and everything.
My humble abode. I've got my lime tree here. I've got my orange tree there, and my avocado tree over there behind us. So I'm ready to rock when Armageddon comes down.
Yeah, I guess we should mention the fact that we're going to be live with Jay Moore this week at Bastard's Canteen, the new restaurant in Temecula. It's already, I think, sold out.
I think they have. When I spoke to them last, they said they had, I think, 26 tickets left. But of those 26 tickets, I needed 5, so we're down to 21 for those of you watching. And by game time, I'm pretty sure we're going to be completely sold out. I know they sold out of the VIP booth tickets. So
open for someone like Jay Moore. I mean, Jay's been around forever and ever, but you're also established yourself. I mean, you can go out and headline your own shows. What is that like to open for somebody, even if it is someone of Jay's caliber?
I mean, I've been opening for bigger comedians for a long time. I'm not a headliner. I haven't kind of reached that plateau yet, just because I haven't been in the game long enough as far as stand-up goes to do so. I've really only been doing stand-up for 3 years, but I've kind of progressed fairly quickly. But I've opened, I opened for Brian Callen, I've opened for Eric Griffin, I've opened for, Bill Burr, all these big guys, at shows here around LA. And, I travel with Brian. I tour with Brian quite a bit, Brian Callen. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's fun. It's always fun to work with somebody new. And, I've worked with Jay before. We've done some shows at the Roosevelt Hotel together. And, Jay's great, man. I'm excited. It's going to be interesting because Jay's such a clean comic, and I'm exactly the opposite of that. So
when you say clean comic, there's also two boys sucking each other's penises in his act.
That sounds pretty clean. Getting two penises clean at the same time. There's nothing dirty about that.
If you didn't live in LA and Hollywood, you'd be a headlining act. I mean, look, you have to pick guys who are enormous dudes to not be doing your own headline.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it typically takes, they say, minimal 10 years to be a headliner, to have a strong enough act and to have enough experience on stage to be a true headliner. My goal is to be there within the next year or two, so 4 to 5 years in. But I'd like to shoot my first 30-minute special by next year. And right now, I would say I probably have a strong enough 30 minutes to shoot a 30-minute special right now, but I want to work towards that, super strong 30-minute set because so many people are expecting me to fail.
What's the heart of what you do comedy-wise then? I mean, we know what Dave Chappelle does. He's pretty much the maestro for everybody right now. I mean, Kevin Hart can play stadiums. So what's Kevin McNamara?
God, I would have to say pushing back against the woke mob is kind of where I'm at right now. I think that there is an attack on the First Amendment and specifically on conservative voices. And especially in the arena of stand-up comedy right now, kind of everything you say is brought under a microscope. And if it doesn't fit the narrative of the media or the woke mob, you kind of start getting doxxed. And I'm pushing back against that. All those people who say that you can't talk about this or you can't talk about that, those are the first topics that I jump on when I get on stage.
Is that dangerous for your career? Because you're not just a comedian. Like, you also do other stuff. You got to go sit across from people who are woke. I mean, like, they're like, no, it's time to understand these things. We have to see these other parts of the problem.
I think the situation in Hollywood is fluid. I think currently the climate is very much left-wing and pushing everything towards race, the racial inequality and woke idealism. But like anything else, I think that I think it swings back. I think it's a pendulum. I think it swings back. I think right now it's swinging hard left, but I think it's going to swing back to, the moderate side of things, or hopefully a little bit more conservative. Just depending on who you work with. The show that I'm on currently, or that I've been on currently, is a CBS produced show, and CBS is pretty focused on making sure that they're in line with the current climate. But I don't foresee it being an issue because I don't go overtly right wing.
Right.
I do have, talking points that would be considered conservative, and I do have a conservative view. But I do it with wit. I don't just throw, I don't just like to throw jokes out there that are just shock and awe. I like to throw jokes out there that kind of keep you guessing and take you on twists and turns, and not just throw something out there that's going to hurt people or upset people. I want to make everybody laugh, whether you're left wing, right wing, conservative, libertarian, whatever it is. It's important. I think it's important when you're working with those types of topics that they're really well thought out jokes, and that's what I try to do.
These things are challenging, right? So right now, could be I've been driving for a little over an hour. That the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict might even be in right now. I don't know. Right?
Yeah.
As a combat guy, here's how I see this, and I don't know enough about the trial. I'm not sitting in the jury box, so I don't have enough specific knowledge. But if you put yourself into a situation where the proper authorities can no longer control law and order and peace, and I'm not talking about a protest, I'm talking about when you get past that. The gods of war don't oblige anybody's anything. You can be the best warrior in the world. I mean, Patton broke his neck in a car accident at the end of World War II.
Right.
I mean, anything can happen when you're in a place where there's chaos. So if you put yourself into that environment, there is no guarantee of well-being. There is no guarantee of self-defense or non-self, because it's chaos. Chaos is ruling. Anarchy is ruling. And so I don't see that there's any good outcome. I mean, there's misconduct, it seems like, from the prosecution. There's legitimate concerns about why a 17-year-old has a rifle out in another state. I mean, even though Kenosha and where he lives, I mean, I've lived up in that area. It's not far at all.
Right.
Like that's a suburb.
It's a couple hours.
Yeah, not even that. I mean, it's so close. And then legitimately, he can say, I feared for my safety because the entire area was dangerous. How did you sort that out? How do you figure out? There is no right answer. How do you figure out?
I mean, let's call it what it is. Let's break it down to the most simplified version of it. To call it a protest is a joke. It wasn't a protest at that point. It was a riot. You've got people looting. You've got people burning down businesses. You've got people being attacked and violently attacked with weapons and being jumped by multiple people. I think the Kyle Rittenhouse situation is interesting in the fact that I truly believe that he was there to do good. I think he was there to protect businesses and also to administer aid and be there to help people out that might need it, put out fires and things like that. I think the situation that came from him being there, I think they're just bad people that were looking to do bad. And they put themselves in front of somebody who was willing to fight for what they believe in. And I think regardless of age, 17 or 30,
right,
the calm and cool demeanor that he carried himself with and the way that he handled his weapon and the way that he went out of his way to try and stem the situation by running, and they pursued him and they put him in a situation where he had to defend his life. I think if he would have just gone there without a weapon and tried to administer aid, I think the same situation would have happened. You have, like I said, let's call it what it is. You have predators. The Rosenhaus guy was a sexual predator. The other guy was also a violent felon.
Right.
Both of which had weapons. Rosenberg or Rosenblum had a chain, and the other guy had a handgun.
Yeah.
The other guy had a skateboard. The third guy. I think the situation is the same. I think if he's running around trying to put out fires, which is what started the whole situation, they were trying to start a fire, and he was trying to put the fire out, and that's why it escalated. I think you put him in that situation without a weapon, and that kid's dead and or kidnapped or gone. And do I feel bad about 3 felons one of which being a child pedophile rapist, anally raped a 9-year-old. Do I feel bad about him being gone? No.
Yeah.
Would I feel bad about Kyle Rittenhouse being gone? Somebody who was trying to help? Yes.
We also don't spend much time talking about the other victims who've lost their complete livelihood, lost their lives, have been maimed through these. And when I'm saying riots, we're talking, there's a clear line between the riot and the protest. I think we all support the right to protest, even vigorously protest. But burning someone's business, murdering a man, murdering people in general, I mean, we're not talking about those people who've lost everything. And we are talking about Kyle and a child rapist. It's a little galling.
Yeah.
Galling.
It's a situation that really upsets me about this is they're constantly talking about, well, why was he there? Why did he need to be there? Well, where were you?
Yeah.
Those who are judging him, where were you? Why weren't you there putting out fires? Why weren't you there administering aid? Why weren't you there trying to protect your neighborhood? And he was protecting a neighborhood that he worked in, not that he lived in. But why weren't you there? If you're talking about why was he there at 17, well, clearly he had good parents who trained him and raised him and up to be an upstanding citizen.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk about that narrative, why was he there? Well, why was Rosenblum there?
Yeah.
He had just been released from a mental asylum that day. And the first thing he did was run to a riot.
Right.
And start threatening people and saying he's going to kill people and using the N-word as if it's willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Why isn't his choices being questioned? Why are we in a situation where we're choosing to glorify someone's choice who's a registered sex offender felon who ran to a riot, or a 17-year-old kid who went to a riot to try and help? Why are we judging him and not what they're trying to claim as a victim? He's not a victim. That's just the way I see it.
Well, I mean, he brought a gun to a riot, and there's another guy that brought a gun and chains and weapons, and all of that stuff is bad. I have a basic philosophy on a lot of these things. People that don't want to get shot act like it. And if you are in a riot and you have a weapon, it doesn't matter what that weapon is. That weapon can be a bicycle that you're swinging around like a maniac. I walked up the street in San Francisco, and the dude had a 2x4, like he was Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Yeah.
And he was marching in front of his stash. That's a weapon. And I had my eyes on him. I adjusted my backpack so I could defend myself against him, because he was not someone who was unarmed.
Right.
You know, and it's a 2x4. Throw it in the ground, be like, I didn't have a weapon.
Right.
But for sure as hell, I had to be prepared for that. Nothing happened. But the guy was insane. He was guarding his collection of used tampons.
Okay.
So obviously something's wrong with that person. And when someone comes out of an asylum and runs to the riot, this again goes back to that law and order thing. If the authorities can't or won't create law and order, then things like that are going to happen. And it's going to put someone like Kyle Rittenhouse or whoever the next person is in a position of life and death. And we wouldn't be judging him if he was dead. We would just forget that he even existed.
So here's the issue. If they had killed him and he didn't have a gun, the narrative would be a 17-year-old kid was murdered in these riots by 3 white men, one with a skateboard, one with a chain, one with a gun.
Right.
The narrative would be completely different. But because he was on the other side of the ideal, he's a bad guy.
If there was a narrative at all.
If there's
hundreds of people that were murdered during the riots of 2020.
Yeah. And, the issue is that there's a lot of people that went to these protests with the intention of looting, burning, causing destruction. And a lot of those people were not there for the real reason of why they said they were there. And a lot of those people are just, everybody wants to talk about white knights and, the narrative of white knights and white people feeling they need to protect people of color and all of this. Well, why aren't these people that are at these protests and that are causing this damage that happen to be white, why aren't they being considered white knights? If they fall into the idea of the woke mob, then it's okay. But if it's on the other side of the fence, then it's not okay. The issue is that there's so much division and there was so much attention paid to this narrative of racial separation over the past 4 years. And prior to that, when Obama was in office, you never heard about racial division. obviously there were situations where, there was police violence and police brutality where it was in the news. But the idea of complete racial separation, racial division, you didn't hear anything about it. And then 4 years ago, it turns into the most egregious situation in the United States of America. And it's like, where did that come from? Was it the media pumping that into everybody, or is that really the situation? Because I don't remember that being the case for me, at least. It's 5 years ago.
It's crazy. I was watching a clip from Tim Cast IRL. He had Joe Rogan and a bunch of other guys. And you see what you want about those guys. Joe Rogan has more eyeballs than any single news network.
Easily.
And when he says Americans don't trust the news, I don't trust the news. I mean, I've watched, and there's a reason, I've watched the news report on a press briefing, especially during Donald Trump's presidency. And they say something, I'm like, well, let me go watch a press briefing. And I'm like, whoa, that is a completely different reality. Could you make that assumption about what, could the news be accurate? Maybe, but you had to really try hard to make that be the thing. And so we've lost our faith in that. And look, the news has a long history of that, lying about Vietnam, lying about all kinds of things. But is it going to get better? I mean, you can create whatever you want now. I mean, you not only are a comedian, you create all kinds of things. Joe Rogan can almost say whatever he wants because he doesn't need anybody to get a job. Right. If you want to hire him, you know what you're hiring, and you know his rate. And if he chooses to take that job, he didn't have to do anything. Are we going to get better because we have more people that can be more, they're not beholden to, I don't know, a coffee brand or a car brand and what they say?
I would like to say that that's the case, but I honestly don't think so, because I think the issue is you have to grow to be a juggernaut in order for that to happen. And there's very few of those people out there.
Yeah.
And you're fighting against not only the media, because the issue with the media is that when news became a currency, that's when that's when journalists. The news is now a currency. The news is now dollars, and every view is a dollar. So I think that the issue with the media is that it depends on what they want to prop up. And the other issue is that you're dealing with big tech, and big tech has a very clear, they have a very clear agenda as to what side of things that they're pushing. And the problem is, unless you become a juggernaut like Joe and you get to a point where you can say what you want to say, and Spotify is going to allow you to say whatever it is that you want to say, and even not even Spotify at this point, because you have Spotify employees threatening to walk out because of things that Joe's saying, and you've got Dave Chappelle on stage saying jokes about jokes about the transgender community or what have you, and then you've got Netflix employees walking out. So do I think it's going to get better? No, I think the issue is big tech can censor anyone they want.
Yeah.
And it's a monopoly. And you have two avenues to get your message out to the world, out to the people. You have the media, which is completely and total bullshit.
Right.
And you've got big tech, which is complete and total bullshit.
Right.
So until you build a voice that's big enough to where you can say, F you, I'm going to say what I'm going to say, you can't do that. But if they don't allow you to grow to that point, to have that voice. Yeah. See, Joe came in at the perfect time. He started his podcast at the perfect time because he started his podcast and started really catching on before all of this divide, before all this bullshit.
And he was a national level performer.
Right, to where he could bring in people. He was bringing in people from both sides and genuinely listening to what they had to say prior to big tech and media choosing a side. So he was able to grow before big tech decided, we don't like the right because they're trying to regulate us and they're trying to, make us publishers, which is really the issue that big tech has, is that the right, specifically Donald Trump, was trying to make them responsible for what happens on their platforms, which I believe they should be, and censoring, which they shouldn't be able to do.
Right.
I feel like big tech and social media should be an open platform for both sides. If Al Qaeda can be on Twitter,
Yeah.
and the president of the United States can't be,
Yeah.
that's a real issue.
Yeah.
It's a serious issue.
I personally don't think Donald Trump's good for the country, in part because him and his son were just selling Alec Baldwin shot people shirts, and you can't always choose to divide the country or pick a fight that doesn't need picking. Even if his policy idea was right, he would undermine it by commenting. But that stuff is part of American history because he's the president. If I do it, who cares? Kick me off the platform. But he's the American president. And if you ban him, his title is still Mr. President,
right?
I've got a problem with that. The other thing that I don't care for as a creator is I'm not allowed to compete fairly with my other peer shows. I can have the best Kevin McNamara interview on the internet, and it can be deranked for reasons outside of the quality of what I do.
Right.
And so, and not political, just deranked in general because I haven't satisfied some algorithm. One of the favorite things on YouTube is to have this face on your image, and that ranks you up. Wow, right. That's ridiculous to have a stupid shocked face all the time.
I mean, the fact that you're, what do they call that? What do they call the picture? The screenshot.
Yeah.
What is it called? It's I forget what it's got a specific term.
Yeah.
But YouTube has a video that breaks down all of the algorithms that are used to decide if your screenshot or whatever it's called will be seen by the most amount of eyes possible, and it breaks it down to like the font that you use, how much of the actual shot is taken up by the font, and the rest of the shot is taken up by the person in the shot, the colors you use, like everything is broken down.
So much so that there's no creativity. Everybody's putting the same picture.
Everybody puts up kind of the same idea with the same font, with the same colors, just a little bit different to differentiate themselves from the other creators. I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't even have a YouTube channel.
Yeah. I
don't have time. But I do have friends that have YouTube channels. I have a friend who started a YouTube channel, and this is an exact point of kind of the way things work. I have a friend who started a YouTube channel, and the channel itself it's sketches that are written with a specific agenda, that agenda being left wing. And they're like little 5 minute to 8 minute, I guess you'd call them short TV series, like mini series type things, where it's like racist boss refuses to hire a black woman.
Jesus.
Or racist kid beats up a black art student, or something like that. And the guy's making $200,000 a month off of YouTube.
Crazy.
Because the numbers that he gets are insane, because YouTube is pushing all of that to the top of the algorithm because of those specific keywords. Racist.
Yeah.
Racist this, racist that. Black kid gets abused by this, and it's interesting because he's not left wing.
Love it.
But he's playing their game.
Playing the game.
He's playing their game, which I respect. I respect anybody who's making $200,000 a month. But also, you're pumping that same agenda, that same message out into the world.
But that's not called vitriol either. That's just called facts or something.
Yeah. So, could I jump on? Could I jump on YouTube and start writing some sketches and things about that and make a lot of money? Yeah, I could. I'm a good writer.
Yeah.
Could I jump on YouTube and write a bunch of sketches about right wing conservative ideas? Yeah. Won't get nearly the same amount of numbers.
Yeah.
But that is where we are.
One of the funny things about YouTube is, there's a couple things. One, whenever I fill out the surveys, and I always try to fill the surveys out. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just tilting on a windmill, but They always want to know what I am and what I want to have sex with. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm a creator. You know, why does that stuff matter, right? Like, who cares? I don't care what color you are. I don't care what you have between your legs. I don't care what you bump it. And as long as you're not harming kids or anything, do what you got to do, you know. But there's that. And then it seems that no matter how many times I derank Fox when they offer it, Fox News specifically, they just continue to offer it to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want that. I still don't want that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to want that, you know. But they always put the same kind of things forward. And I search for a lot of stuff because of what I do. And then the search will come back. It should be confused by me. And so I think it just defaults to Fox because you're an old white guy, we think. Fox.
Yeah.
Not what I want to hear.
It's, you know, I don't like being put in a box.
Okay.
It's just kind of where I stand. Yeah. I am who I am. I have the beliefs that I have, but that doesn't mean that just because I believe some of the same things that other people may believe, that makes me what they are.
Right.
I think people are too quick to start throwing tags on people. You know, if you're conservative, you're a racist.
Right.
If you, you know, if you are a Trump supporter, you're a white supremacist. Right. If you're a Biden supporter, then you're woke. If you're pro BLM, then you know you're a white knight or whatever the hell it is. I think people, you know, the issue that I have is I'm a big fan of looking back at history and seeing, you know, what the real important figures in history have to say about things. And I think, you know, Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Judge me not by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character."
Yeah.
What happened to that? What happened?
I don't know.
You know, just because somebody is...
Turns out having good character is hard.
Yeah.
That's what happened to it.
Yeah. I mean, character is what you should be judged on.
Right.
You know, in your actions more so than your words.
Yeah.
You know, if you're out in a BLM protest and you happen to be a white guy, which I was at the BLM protest, I was out there with my camera and I was taking shots for some news organizations while I was out there. And there was multiple situations. At the time I had a beard and, you know, I had a little bit of tactical gear on because I was concerned about some things. And I'm out taking shots of what was going on both sides. And, you know, I got punched.
Yeah.
You know, I got hit by both sides of the fence. I got jumped by a few guys that were thinking that I was like a white supremacist or whatever. And then the cops whacked me with a baton because I was trying to help up an elderly black man that was on the front line. So I got it from both sides of things.
Yeah.
But my actions were always, I'm trying to get the story of what's really happening. Yeah. I wasn't out there trying to make the cops look good. I wasn't out there trying to make BLM look good. Yeah. I was out there getting shots of reality, what was really happening in the moment.
Right.
And anybody there, depending on which side you're looking at, if I've got a camera and I'm taking shots, if I'm taking pictures of the BLM side of things, BLM could say, "Oh, he's trying to make us look bad."
Yeah.
And the cops could say, "Oh, he's trying to make them look good."
Right.
It's the actions of what you're doing. If you're out there burning things and breaking into buildings and looting and robbing, you're a bad person.
Right.
If you're a cop and you're out there whacking people with batons and, you know, shooting peaceful people with rubber bullets that are on the front lines doing nothing, you're a bad person. But if you're on both sides of the fence and you're just there voicing your matter of the things, and you're a cop and you're just doing your job and you're standing there with a baton trying to save a building that's burning, then who's the bad guy in that situation? There is no bad guy in that situation. It's about your actions. It's about the content of your character, who you are as a person.
When you look at the content of character and you try to establish what good character is for Kevin, right? But then also externally, like when you try to assess their character, what does that look like for you? And what do you want to see from somebody else if they have good character?
Honestly, like, what happened to manners? Mm-hmm. What happened to, you know, nowadays it's interesting to me how things that used to be looked at as something that made you a man, a respectful man, or a respectful woman, is now looked at as you're being condescending. If I open a door for a woman, it's looked at as, it used to be you're being a gentleman.
Right.
And now it's, I don't need you to open the door for me. I can open the door for myself. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Sure.
Of course you can.
Sure you can. Of course you can.
Yeah.
Yes. Great. I was just trying to show respect, or, shaking hands, or getting up out of your seat so that a woman or an elderly person can sit down. All of these things that are looked at now as you're mansplaining, or you're looking down, you're being condescending to people.
Right.
To me, what the content of someone's characters is someone who respects people, whether you know them or not, just based on the fact that they are a man or a woman or a person.
Yeah.
And you're respectful of their space. You're respectful of their wishes. Treat others as you would like to be treated. Me, myself, I would love for somebody to just say hello when I walk down the street. Nobody does that anymore. Especially in LA. You walk down the street and somebody's walking by and you say, "Hey, hello, how are you? How's your day?" They just kind of look at you like you're crazy. It's like, cool, got it, right on. It's holding a door for me, or if I see someone else hold a door for a woman or hold a door for an elderly person, I think I love that. I love that.
The door thing is interesting. I open doors for people.
Right.
And I've on occasion, and it's pretty rare, but I've on occasion had someone, a female, say, I can open the door myself. I'm like, I've got a moment for anybody, and I have a door open. And just because you come through, I'll hold it for the next 3 people if they're all in a bunch. I'm like, come on in.
Right.
And I bet you someone after that opens the next door, like in that little, the 2-door hallway kind of thing.
Right.
Because we all want to return their favor. And there is that does exist. But also the other day I was at my high school. I talk to my high school every year. And you have to push the doorbell, which is sad on high school. You have to push a doorbell and stand there and wait. You don't know what's going on. There's no interaction. So you literally just stand there like, okay.
Yeah.
Because you can't just walk into the administration office. And then there was a kid there, a student, and he stood there. And maybe he didn't see me push the button, but he kind of looked at me and then ignored me and then went over. And I said, I pushed the button. I'm just waiting.
Yeah.
And ignored my presence. And I'm like, that's not very respectful. I mean, if nothing else, you can tell I'm an elder. I've got a gray beard. You should at least be like, "Oh, thank you, sir," or something, or acknowledge that I exist instead of just like turning away from me. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, I think it's so funny. When I was younger, I used to listen to people older. My elders, if you will. I used to listen to them say things like "back in my day" or "in my time." And I would always be like, "Yes, okay, relax." But nowadays, I say the same thing because in my time, parenting was very different. Now there's the timeouts, and we're equals. Our child is equal to us. Your child shouldn't fear you, or you shouldn't strike your child, or all these other things. Growing up, you had no choice but to respect your parents. You had no choice to respect elders.
Right.
If I went out, I used to play pickup basketball all the time when I was a kid.
Same.
And I would go to the park and I would play, and I'd be 13, 14 playing with grown men.
Yeah.
And I had to watch what I said.
Yeah.
I had to watch my P's and Q's, because if I didn't, they would have no problem with smacking me, or putting me on my ass.
Yeah.
And that taught me that you have to respect those who are older than you. You respect your elders. Nowadays, I play pickup. I'm 42. Nowadays, I play pickup basketball, and these 13, 14-year-olds are, F this, F that, you're a bitch, this, that, and the other. And it's just like, and you can't do or say anything about it, because if you do, someone's going to call the cops, or you're a bully, or you're a child abuser, and all these other things.
Yeah.
There's no repercussions anymore for bad behavior. And especially in California, if you look at things with, the laws now with, shoplifting, as long as it's $900 and something or less.
That's crazy. That's not sustainable.
They don't even prosecute.
Yeah.
It's not even a misdemeanor. You get a fine if you get caught. Well, if they don't pursue you to catch you, then you don't get caught. So you're just stealing willy-nilly, and there's no repercussion.
Yeah.
So when you have a society that's been taught that there's no repercussions for the things that you do, of course, the character of that society starts to dwindle down to the basest character possible. And when you've got a media that's constantly been pushing the narrative of, being dumb is cool.
Yeah.
Being uneducated is cool. Don't go to school. Don't get an education. Be a social media star.
Yeah.
Or be a rapper or be this. What happened to the generation of people that it was drilled into your head?
Yeah.
You need to go out and learn the things that build up society.
Yeah.
We need doctors. We need lawyers. We need rocket scientists. We need scientists. We need these people that continue to build the society as in a better direction. But that's not pushed anymore. It's like everybody's a butterfly.
Yeah,
everybody's a really good butterfly, and you should spread your wings.
Do you feel like there's less pickup sports today? I mean, you're in LA, so maybe it's different. But I know in my hometown, there was always a game running. You knew where the courts were.
I don't know. I would say it's probably still about the same. I think there's less people playing.
Okay.
You've got, kids. When I was a kid, you couldn't stay inside. You weren't allowed to be inside. Right. If it was nice outside, get your ass outside, figure something out.
Right.
If you have nothing to do, find something to do. Nowadays with, video games and cell phones and all this stuff, you're more likely to see kids sitting at a park on their phone rather than playing basketball or catch or whatever it is.
I played a lot of pickup basketball too, pickup football, pickup baseball, whatever it was. And you had to learn how to navigate that reality. Bigger kids, kind of smaller kids, sometimes men playing with, and you had to decide like what kind of player you're going to be, how you call a foul, right? You call your own fouls in pickup basketball. And if you call fouls like you're a bitch, you're going to get called a bitch.
Right.
And then you're going to have to back up that, or everybody just starts calling you a bitch and you become this bitch and go over there and play like that guy's. And you quickly develop this persona. So you have to have some level of toughness and you have to back up what you say you're going to do. Otherwise, again, you learn to work as a community. And if you go and you play, like I played in a lot of, I went to areas where there were black folks and all kinds of different people that I played with. And there's different vibes and everything in the different games. But as long as you were respectful, look, someone might give you a hassle. And you're always on the edge of a fight if you're really in a problematic area. Like, we're just everybody. You've been in games where you're like, ooh, everybody's kind of upset.
Yeah, I grew up in Detroit. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But you also could navigate that. You didn't just leave. I mean, if you got crazy and someone pulled out a gun, of course you leave then. But there's always kind of like a tension in the right kind of basketball court where like someone might get in a fight with somebody else.
Well, I think because, especially back then, because there were repercussions for the things you did and said, and you had to have a toughness about you. You didn't call weak fouls. You just didn't, especially in Detroit. You call weak fouls. The next game, you don't get picked up. You get looked at. And there were repercussions for the things you said and did. Nowadays, it's not the same. Like the problem is everybody wants to nerf the world. Everybody wants to make these kids, they don't want bulletproof kids. They want no bullets.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
Right.
Kids are mean.
Yeah. Kids are mean. Yeah.
And if you're trying to nerf everybody gets a participation trophy. Everybody tried real hard.
Yeah.
There are no scores in T-ball.
Right.
We don't know what the score is. Everybody just plays.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Great. But what are you teaching these kids? When you're trying to bulletproof your kid and you're trying to nerf the world, you're not putting your kid in the position to know how to deal with adversity when adversity comes, and it's going to come.
Yeah.
And that's why you have these kids that don't know how to deal with their emotions, don't know how to deal with adversity, don't have any idea what it is to be put in a dangerous situation and how to deal with it. No street smarts whatsoever.
Yeah.
And they end up in these situations with these kids who have been put in these situations and are tough, and they get their asses beat, or they get bullied. And that's where you get school shooters from.
Right.
Because these kids that don't know how to deal with their emotions, don't know how to defend themselves, and they just want to lash out.
There's a lot of smarts in that. I mean, the pickup basketball thing is a great example of that. You could be there. You and I are playing pickup basketball. I'm 50, you're 40, and if we see young bucks kind of getting young bucky, we'll let them run a little bit. But we'll probably also both calm it the hell down before it gets too out of hand.
Yeah.
Right? These guys got to figure it out,
Yeah.
And there is a a hierarchy. But like I remember being a little kid, and look, I had a big motor. I just ran around, and I tried to smack the ball, and I played a lot of defense, passed a lot, so nobody minded playing with me. But sometimes guys would get upset because I was a big effort guy, and then they would start to try to pick on me. And because someone else would respect my game, the fact that I passed the ball, the other alpha there on the court would be like, leave the white boy alone.
Yeah.
And then they would leave the white boy alone. But I had to play my game. I had to play hard. I had to stop the best player in the team, and everybody appreciated that. So I found my spot in games where I wasn't the best player, not even close, but I could fit in and do something. That's where I learned how to adapt to an environment that I was foreign to. But I learned through my actions and my character of my game.
I think the issue is if you play so sticking with that idea of pickup basketball, if you play with a toughness that's equal to the toughness around you, that white boy shit drops off.
Yeah.
Nobody ever said the white boy when I played.
Right.
Granted, I was known in my neighborhood, but nobody else said the white boy.
I would go to courts away from my neighborhood too.
Even then, because I would show up and I would establish that, hey, I'm a player.
Yeah.
You want to throw elbows? I'll throw elbows with you.
Sure.
You want to play hard? I'll play hard. You want to play no blood, no foul? Let's fucking play no blood, no foul. I got no problem with that.
Yeah, right.
And that white boy shit drops off when you do that because you're playing up to the caliber of the people around you. You're playing with the toughness of the people around you, and then they just see you as an athlete.
Yeah.
And that's going back to the character side of things.
Right.
People will start seeing you as a human, as a person, rather than a color by the way that you carry yourself. If you carry yourself like a piece of shit,
then
you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Period. And shit, last time I checked, is shit. It doesn't matter. So at the end of the day, I think it's the way you carry yourself and carrying yourself in a way that you are all right with people judging you based on your character because you know that your character is strong enough to be judged.
I want to change gears a little bit, but I want to stick with basketball.
Sure.
A friend asked an overall question on Facebook. If you played one-on-one with President Obama, would you win and how would you do it? When I played one-on-one in basketball in general, I didn't shoot a lot because I'm just not a very good shooter. I'm ambidextrous. So I would shoot, both hands get in the way, but I could pass like crazy and all that kind of stuff. So I just said, and I know you'll appreciate this, I'm like, I'd absolutely whip his ass because I wouldn't play with any respect for who he was. And I would rick the horn and worm him to death. Because you got to call your own fouls. I'd slap the shit out of his hands all the time. There's no 5-foul rule. And we just roughhouse. And if he could beat me roughhousing, then good. And if the Secret Service stepped on the court, I'd be like, ball. Take it off the court. I'd take the foul, That's how I'd beat him. How would you beat the president?
I mean, I'm 6'5", 220. I'd body him in the post and lay him up. He's not keeping me out of the post. And I don't see him getting a shot up over me. And he's a shooter. He's not a dribble drive penetrator.
Right.
From what I saw, he doesn't really have handles. He can shoot, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So I'd smoke him. I'd smoke him. I don't see. I don't see Obama getting a shot up on me. To be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, you're tall. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is if I get the bomb, I'm gonna back him down at his big butt, and I'm gonna do the Raymond Tisdale thing. Just get him down close and then flip a little left-handed hook up around.
Yeah. I'm gonna post him to death.
Yeah, I like it. Tell me what you're working on creatively besides comedy.
So right now I've got I'm in post-production on a short film that I directed called Hose, and that's going to be a festival project. So once we get the post-production done on that, we're going to start shooting it out to festivals and seeing what we can do with that. I've also got another film that I wrote called Topper that right now is in the stages of working on getting investors together that I'll be directing as well. Right now we have some really great names attached to that, some pretty big names attached to that film. And we have two investors on now and other investors interested. So we're looking to hopefully start shooting that in February. And then TV series that I'm pitching, that I wrote, that we have some interest in as well. And my production company, getting my production company off the ground and getting that kind of working in the right direction. That's kind of where I'm at right now, besides the stand-up thing. And hopefully season 3 of Why Women Kill. So Yeah.
It's a lot of work. In Hollywood, you have to be multi-slashed, like actor, comedian, producer, director, writer. I mean, I'm not saying anything that you're not familiar with.
Yeah, especially nowadays.
Right.
Yeah, you got to be able to do everything. You got to be a creator more so than just an artist.
When you look at those things, I mean, if you can build your own projects with largely your own money or your own pockets of money that you can go to and pay everybody back, you at some point don't need a studio anymore.
Right.
Because you've got, it's like when Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger made all of their money on Twins. I mean, because they just did it themselves. They didn't need the studio to do it. They just paid for it.
Yeah.
Is that your future, you think? You just have the independence, or do you want the big studio money and access?
No, I don't want it. I love the idea of independent. Obviously you got to get distribution eventually. Sure. Be it through. I love the model of streaming. Mm-hmm. Not so much for the residual aspect because there really aren't any residuals. But I love the idea that if you can put together a good enough project that you can turn around and pretty much guarantee that you're going to get your budget back plus whatever. Right. Investors love that, obviously, because they want to make sure their ROI is safe. But yeah, the reason I really got into writing, directing, producing everything behind the camera is because I got tired of begging for my supper. Yeah. To be honest with you, I'm sick of going and auditioning for projects that I don't believe in, scripts that are shitty, terribly written scripts. Right. The same old bullshit that Hollywood's been pumping out for years and years.
It's the YouTube thing again, right? The stupid thumbnail that has to always be the same.
But more so just the same repetitive story over and over and over. Remakes and reboots and sequels, and Hollywood really doesn't take any chances anymore, and the only films that really take chances are independent, and that's kind of where I want to be. Yeah, I prefer to create art and create cinema, and not just try to run out there and make guaranteed box office bullshit. Yeah, yeah. I'm tired of I'm tired of auditioning for things that I don't believe in. Yeah, I'm tired of begging for my supper. I'm gonna make my own stuff. Yeah. And have fun with it, and not be told who I can hire and what I can talk about and what I can write about, and have a studio constantly just pumping their narrative into what needs to be in my projects.
If anything, there are more studios making a wider array of projects than ever before, or funding them, or whatever they're going to do. I mean, BYU has a TV channel, and they fund their own projects, and you don't have to be super Mormon guy to do that. You can just be like, I have a project that's family friendly, and they're like, yeah, it's good. Yeah, because they're all everybody's looking to try to create their brand's content. So it doesn't have to be Apple, it doesn't have to be anybody.
Yeah, I mean, in the past you had, 5 networks. Yeah, and that was kind of all you had to work with. Yeah. Now you have hundreds of networks, streaming services, and all these other avenues to get your stuff out there. Yeah. Which makes it, you're definitely muddying the waters, because you've got so many avenues that you don't have enough eyeballs to really get some serious views on it. Right. But if your stuff is good, people will find it. So I think the important thing is it forces people to work harder to make better projects. You can't just make bullshit anymore and throw it up on a network and you get 4 or 5 million eyeballs on it because it's on NBC or CBS or ABC.
Because even NBC isn't just NBC. That NBC is Peacock and all these other things. Like they're competing with themselves for market share.
Yeah, and you don't get the same eyeballs that you used to, because people have the option to go out and find good stuff. Yeah, that's why SNL fucking sucks. SNL is terrible. SNL now, the product that they put out compared to what they did before it's horrible.
Why?
They don't work hard anymore. They just, and they keep getting Emmy nominations just because they're SNL. Yeah. And you look at for instance, and this isn't just because Joe is a friend of mine, but this is something that really bugged me. SNL did this sketch. It was it was supposed to be Sesame Street or something. And they did a sketch with Joe Rogan Joe Rogan was talking to Big Bird about how to battle COVID-19 or something. I don't even.
Yeah.
The sketch just was stupid. Didn't make any sense. But Pete Davidson was playing Joe Rogan. Made no attempt to do a Joe Rogan voice. They basically just put a bald cap on him and put him in a black T-shirt. No fake tattoos, no nothing. And it was just Joe Rogan giving Big Bird vitamins and ivermectin and saying, "Oh, this is how you cure it." And Big Bird's like, "Isn't this horse medicine?" And Pete Davidson's like, "Well, I took it, so yeah, it's horse medicine, but it's human medicine too, maybe, I guess." And it's just like, this is so lazy.
Yeah.
And it's an old narrative. This, the issue that is, you're talking about Saturday Night Live, and they're talking about something that happened a month ago.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys have writers that write 24/7, 7 days a week.
And you have pitch meetings.
Pitch meetings. And you're putting an actor, you're putting Pete Davidson to play Joe Rogan. Pete Davidson is tall, wiry, and skinny. Joe Rogan is short and stout.
Right.
He's not making any effort to even do an impression. He's speaking with his own voice.
Yeah, that is lazy.
It's so lazy. And Big Bird is 5'7".
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's no effort put forth. It's such a clear narrative of what SNL is so pushing that woke agenda that they won't touch the other things that might be funny.
Right.
And they just kind of play the laziest.
It's absolutely a character you can do a caricature of. I mean, he always wears a stupid shirt that his wife must have gave him, the black one with the buttons and everything else when he does fight stuff. And he says all kinds of cliche things, and he's always kind of sweaty, and you could absolutely do a great imitation.
He's super energetic. He's got a very distinct voice.
Yeah.
He has taglines that he uses all the time.
Right.
Like, there's so much you have to work with.
Yeah.
You could have put a headset on Pete Davidson as if he was, commentating for the UFC.
Yeah.
You could have had him in a shirt that, that says has a deer on it with a arrow through the head or something. Like, there was so many different things. But all he did, put him in a black T-shirt, give him a ball cap. What about the tattoos? Don't worry about it. What about the voice? Don't worry about it. What about that he looks nothing like Joe Rogan? Don't worry about it. Well, should we give him some dialogue that Joe Rogan would say? Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Well, what the hell are you doing? Yeah. You're a sketch comedy show. It's ridiculous.
Are there any characters coming? Because I think about, we just lost Norm Macdonald, and I mean, his Burt Reynolds was hilarious.
Amazing.
I mean, so good, right? And you knew he was doing a caricature of a character.
Yeah.
But it was absolutely on money. He did that great. And the guy that did Sean Connery, I can't remember his name right now, fantastic. And it was super entertaining. I could watch that bit over and over again, but I can't think of any real skits right now. And I try to watch SNL, but I fast forward through a lot of it.
It's terrible.
It's just like, let's just make political jokes from one side of the spectrum, and I'm like, not funny, and it's lazy.
It's lazy, right?
I don't mind. Dave Chappelle makes fun of everybody. I don't mind listening to whatever I believe in being made fun of. And I'm a middle of the road guy, so you can make fun of me by just making me non-committal. And can you imagine the middle of the road protest? You'd be like, can't we all get along?
Yeah. Holding up a sign he's holding a sign with an arrow on it that says what he says.
Yeah.
And he's just standing next to another guy with a sign.
Yeah.
There's so many jokes that could be made. And what's crazy to me, and this is what really shows the laziness of the show now, is all they do now is read off the cue cards. I don't remember in the 80s and 90s ever seeing any Chevy Chase or
those were all
Will Ferrell, any of them. I never saw any of them reading off a cue card and reading straight to camera.
Right.
Now every sketch you watch on Saturday Night Live, they're clearly reading off a cue card.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't memorize these lines. You can't memorize a 3-minute sketch.
Right.
In a week? You have a week to memorize a 3-minute sketch.
These guys were all Second City guys before. I mean, there's a whole bunch of that improv thing. And also, and again, I don't see this very often, but someone is so funny that they're all trying to keep it together, which is hilarious when you watch that.
My gardeners are here.
Oh, yeah. We'll wrap this thing up.
They're going to start with the whip,
everybody is doing a good job on SNL right now.
I mean, if you want to talk about impressions, Jay Farrow is incredible.
Okay.
He's one of the best impressionists, but they don't use him. in the capacity that they should use them. They really only use them for weekend update.
Right.
God, is there anybody that I can think of that's truly talented on the show?
I mean, there's so many names in the past: Fallon, Murphy, Murray. I mean, there's so many where like these guys left because they had to leave because it was too small of a cage for them.
Yeah. I can't think of a name. You know, the last real star I can think of from SNL would be Will Ferrell. You know, Chris Redd is really funny, but he's funnier as a stand-up than he is on the show, and they don't use him very much. Yeah, I can't think of anybody really. Jay Farrell is an incredible. He does incredible impressions, but they don't use him in the way that they should. Other than that,
just not
no.
Right now.
God, what's his name? What's the guy who's in that the show where he plays a coach, a soccer coach?
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso. Yeah, what's that guy's name?
I don't know.
I forget his name. Yeah. He was great.
He was good.
But since him, I can't remember anybody really. Can't really think of anybody.
They do go through eras, right?
Yeah.
And maybe the pendulum has swung too far to the left. All right. What do you think in closing before I wrap this thing?
Shit, it's gonna sound cliche, but you know, let's just come together.
All right.
I don't think there's anything wrong with having different opinions. Whatever happened to communication? Whatever happened to just talking and hashing things out? I think it's okay to be devout to your beliefs. I think it's okay to be to have a really strong belief system in the things that you really believe in.
Mm.
But I also think it's very important to understand that other people have different beliefs, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to disagree. I think it's healthy to disagree. I think if everybody just agreed on everything, the world would be a super fucking boring place and nothing would really get done.
Yeah.
So I think you need outsiders. I think you need people that think on the edge of society. I think you need people that have different opinions. I think that's where art comes from, and beauty, and that's where amazing things like podcasts come from.
Yeah.
As much as everybody talks poorly about podcasts, and there's a billion podcasts and all these other things, it gives you an opportunity to put two people in a room that may have a different opinion, and hear them work it out through words. And at the end, they still might not agree. But it's very rare you see a podcast that comes to fisticuffs. You know?
And I don't agree with everything you said in terms of like philosophy. We can't all agree on these things, but we can't tolerate it. And just because we disagree doesn't make you a racist or me a racist or any other thing. It's like we're people trying to figure out as best we can how to do what it is that we need to do. And I got this thing the other day. They're like, here's an opportunity for you because you're a veteran, blah, 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 fill out this thing. And it's like, which cause do you care about? This cause sheet had nothing to do with what they were asking me to do. And every cause in there was like, well, you're assuming that any of these things is important to me. Like my survival was the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying not to, my brother just died last month. I'm dealing with all of that. You think I care about all these other social issues? Come on. I mean, I don't. And so I fixed it for him. I put new boxes. My box was, I care about being left the fuck alone. So just let me do what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to hurt anybody, you know? I
think it's important to remember certain things when it comes to dealing with other people. I think it's important to realize that there's certain aspects of people that are just human nature.
Yeah.
Humans are tribal by nature.
That's right.
It just is the way it is.
Yeah.
Always has been. You know, people want to take the animal aspect out of humans. And when you do that, you expect humans to be this, all-knowing, all-seeing, all-feeling creature.
Right.
And that's not what we are. We're flawed. We're tribal. We have feelings and emotions. We have moods, and they change. Humans are fluid. One thing that we might not know tomorrow, we might know the next day. And one thing we believe today, we might not believe tomorrow. We're constantly being bombarded with information, and that information changes a human being from day to day. So understand that somebody you might not agree with today, you might agree with them tomorrow. Your opinion may change to what they believe, or their opinion might change to what you believe.
Yeah.
But to judge somebody today on who they are,
Right.
based on their beliefs or the things that they're going through, instead of without having a conversation with them, without communicating with them, and just putting them into a box based on that and not the content of their character, is wrong. You have to. Everybody needs to have a little bit more patience. That's all I got to say about it.
If you think Martin Luther King was right? I mean, that's it. It's easy to tolerate what you like. The trick is tolerating things that you don't agree with. You don't have to approve of something that's bad, but you do have to accept that that person is in that spot because of where they came from. You came from Detroit. I came from California. We have different realities, and when we have to move them together, I have to allow you to be the dude that you are, and in some way, you have to allow me to be the dude that I am, and then we figure out where we work out in between.
I think the issue, I think a very important thing is to understand that you are flawed. Have a real understanding of yourself. Have a real conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
And when you can come to terms with the fact that you yourself are flawed, then you can come to terms with the fact that others are flawed. And that's okay. It's okay to be flawed. I'm not perfect, not nearly perfect. I'm a complete moron. But I know that everybody around me is a complete moron too. So I can't judge somebody for being what I am. I'm just patient. I just try to be more patient. That's all I can do.